Hiya guys, so and I haven't done a video for a while, but I've had a lot going on, but I'm going to try my best to keep up and get on top of everything. This is yet another heartbreaking case, and a life that didn't need to be lost, but of course it ended that way, unfortunately. So, a trigger warning here, we're going to be talking about murder, sexual assault, abuse, bullying, and anything to do with true crime nature could come up. So please just be aware when watching, be cautious. If this isn't the video for you, then please feel free to go and watch another video that is more appropriate for you. But this is the case of Becky Watts, a beautiful young girl who had her life stolen by a stepbrother and his girlfriend. So, yeah, it's a stepbrother and his girlfriend, and not only was it a murder, it was a gruesome one. So, as said before, if you can't handle cases like this, please find a more appropriate video for you. Take care of your mental health. You don't need to be watching this if it's going to be too much for you. There's plenty of other videos that you can watch on YouTube. But yeah, if you do want to stick around and watch, and then I'd be very grateful if you could listen to Becky Watts's case. So without further ado, let's get into the case. So, Becky Marie Watts was born on 3rd of June 1998. She ended up passing away on 19th of February 2015 in end. So Becky was from Bristol, Britain. She was, at the time of her death, she was only 16 years old. So I'm just going to get into an actual case. So Becky didn't have the most easiest life from the beginning. Her mum and dad split up before she was born. So Becky had to live with a biological mother to start with, but when she was about 2 or 3 years old, her father wanted Becky to live with him full time because he generally thought Becky was being neglected, wasn't looked after properly and wasn't in a good situation. So he wanted Becky to go to him, and that's what basically happened in there. But her dad ended up meeting a stepmother who was lovely. She was really good with Becky. She actually become an unpaid volunteer in Becky's classroom so that it would make it easier for Becky, because Becky was a shy child. She was anxious kind of child, so a stepmother actually did that. But Becky continued to suffer with a shyness and anxiety growing up, even struggling to leave the family home at times. So the stepmom got some help from services. The initial report said Becky was controlling and lacking dreams and hopes, basically. Bear in mind, Becky was only 13 years old at this time, so no one should be saying that about a child or anyone for that matter. So it breaks my heart that they'd say something like that. These professionals kind of who said it. It was, just, I just don't understand how you can say that. So she was only 13 when the report was written, like I said. But Becky then started to have some conflict with her father. I think partly it's normal when a girl's getting older, even I'm fit with a boy, but especially a daughter with a father raising. She was then seen by 17 experts by 8 healthcare providers. Let that sink in. 17 experts and 8 healthcare providers. So, and she was a very anxious person at this point still. Then at one point, a male friend of Becky's threatened to post photos of Becky showing her body, which obviously anxiety raised, understandably. And she started becoming afraid to go out and just more timid and shy and wear it in general. And at this time, Becky was actually watching a lot of horror films. It is absolutely horrifying now that Becky was scared so much from these horror films that she was actually about to live her own very horror film. And that is devastating to think about. And it wasn't even going to be by a stranger. It was going to be by her own stepbrother. Becky was classed as a child in need as well. At this point, I guess it's because of mental illness, and because anxiety is even a mental illness. There was some things going on, and also some things that were going on that nobody else knew about but Becca at that point, which she'll come to find out later. There were claims that Becky said her stepbrother had touched her through her clothes around this time. Also, he would do things like jump, make Becky jump, and proper make her jump. And although siblings playfully do this, Becky wasn't liking it and she was terrified of it. So it wasn't just, a sibling thing, because he knew it was scaring her as well that much, and he would just do it anyway, and can't continue to do it. Becky was generally terrified and scared of him. In fact, it's really, and she obviously had a good reason to be in the end as well. Becky also said that Nathan would talk about her body, teasing, even talking about her body weight, literally, and that kind of stuff. And then, to no surprise, because of the result of this and everything else that was going on, Becky was then diagnosed with anorexia. Then at some point in May 2014, because concerns grew about her, she was being seen by medical professionals. Now, a bit of background of a stepbrother, Nathan Matthews. So to look at him, everyone thought he was a good person, seemed polite and nice, and just, an average lad. But when he was younger, there was some dysfunction in the family. His dad abandoned him at birth. Age 7, he got sent to live with his maternal grandparents. His mother was still trying to be present as much as she could. So she still tried to keep an open relationship with him, and she still was cared and loved him more than, just as much as anyone should and does love their child, because every child deserves that. And if you're going to be a parent, you need to realise your life's over forever. It's all about your child. But the fact is, he had to live with his maternal grandparents for a bit, for a while. So, like I said, his mom was still trying to be as present as she could, and be there for him and all that. So, even though it would have been understandably hard to not live with a parent or both parents, one or both parents, understandably it is very hard. She was still there for him. She was still showed him love and care and tried to be there for him as much as she could. But I think Nathan's seen it as different to a certain extent. So his mum was actually going through a difficult time, and that's why he ended up living with his maternal grandparents at that point. But she still took him to school, and when she could become better, she got into another relationship with a man who already had a daughter called Rebecca, which is the main person of the case. So Nathan at this point was diagnosed with anxiety and depression and struggled mentally. He started watching porn, spending a lot of time in his bedroom alone. Nathan's mother was, as said, still there for him through all this. She didn't just abandon him for it. She was unfortunately and sadly going through a difficult time, so she handed him over to someone that could give him the day-to-day care that he'd need, which is one of the most selfless decisions. So that word then didn't said selfish, I meant selfless. Obviously, ideally, you want to be with your parents, but at the same time, it's lucky to have people that was there to look after him, that weren't strangers, and still see his mum in the process, and she still was there as much as she can and still loved him and still showing him that she loved him and cared about him. So it don't mean that it wasn't hard for him. Like I said, it would have been, but it's not like it's a parent that's just up and left and or abusing the child. She did it to make things safer and better for her and her son at that time. So also Nathan was only 5'5", which she felt self-conscious about. Which is understandable that it's self-conscious, because I guess it's a bit under the average height. It's not too short, but it is probably below the average height, just a little. Not, I wouldn't say much, would it? But is it 5'6", 5'7", a man's average height. But to him, especially while he was still young, he was self-conscious about it, which, like I said, it is a bit lower than the average height for a male. But then the thing is height doesn't play a role in who you are or what you are. And he was, to be in control and things like that. So I wonder if it was just because of that, to be honest, in the end. But maybe it was a bit just because he was self-conscious about it, naturally. But Nathan also spent a lot of time alone. Like I said, he spent a lot of time in his bedroom and stuff. Possibly due to a depression diagnosis. So that's kind of where that bit is with him. So then, when they become older, as he become a man, people describe Nathan as having a lot of anger issues. It's also noted by people around him that it seems Nathan has poor impulse control, which isn't usually a good thing. When Nathan was 21 years old, he was actually dating a 14-year-old girl, which, that's what we call a paedophile. So I don't know why it was allowed to happen, like, without anyone putting it to the police. So this girl's name that he was dating was Shona All. Moves out of his grandparents' home and sets up at home with his girlfriend, who was only 16 years old at this time. Shona was a complex person. It said she was taken into care as a child, which is a huge thing for a start off. Shona had 7 siblings, so it's safe to say that she probably wasn't getting as much attention as most, average children. And Shona went back to her birth mother at 13 years old. So, sorry, I was just looking at the notes bit. So I just, so now I'm gonna get into the night before Becky was murdered. So the night before Becky was murdered, she stayed up playing video games and watched films with a friend. She also texted her boyfriend, "I love you." She'd not long got into a relationship and had a boyfriend. She was actually starting to enjoy life a bit more at this point, which is heartbreaking now after what happened. She's feeling that we're a bit more purpose and just generally feeling good about everything at that point. She had everything to live for, obviously, by age and experience and life, everything in one. Like I said, she was 16 years old. So Becky's friends and boyfriend kept texting Becca while she was missing, because she did end up going missing. So I would like to say as well, before going further, about Nathan and Shona, as I'm together. I'm sorry if this is a bit back and forward, but I think I forgot to write. I'm seeing on my notes, but then I think I forgot to write a portion about it. So Nathan and Shauna's relationship was actually very controlling. He denied her food. It's been said in the 7-year relationship that Shauna was physically assaulted. Nathan would always ask for money off Shauna. Shauna worked as a carer, caring for Nathan's mum. In fact, Nathan's grandmother said she never liked Shauna, and she was very dominant. She was the very dominant one. One time, Shauna told Nathan she wanted to break up, and apparently Nathan stabbed himself with a fork. So there's a bit of back and forwards with the words in the ship. I think I'm thinking the both was, personally, my thoughts is the both was as bad as each other, really. So it said Shauna was the mastermind behind Becky's murder in the end, even as well. So I guess that tells you a lot about her. And Shauna actually ended up turning to the point where she was watching porn with her partner, Nathan, and ended up being at Becky's expense, is that the right word? Because they were starting to think and feel about things about Becca as watching porn. A 16-year-old girl. And I just want to say, no matter what you have been through, it doesn't give you a right to abuse or murder anyone, abuse them anyway, or murder anyone. So just because they've had a difficult background, Nathan and Shauna, it doesn't give them a right to go on and do this. Becky had a rough background, a lot of us have, but it doesn't excuse, obviously can make you start and have some feelings, but it should really, if you've been through something, it should make you not want to do it to someone else if it was something that bad. And I think they were just heartless, controlling pair of them, Nathan and Shauna. And obviously they were cowards. Nathan and Shauna actually at some point got one of their friends to have a threesome with them. Which is... So Becky was actually flagged when all these assessments were going through as a potential victim for sexual exploitation. She was actually treated like a difficult teenager, Becky. In fact, instead of a young girl struggling with her own thoughts and demons in her head. Actually, after Becky died, that a dad and stepmom actually realised it was when he was around Becky, Nathan, that Becky's behaviour become more challenging. And it's heartbreaking that just hours before Becky's murder that she was turning a corner and starting to see things better. She recovered from anorexia. She started loving clothes, shoes and makeup like girls should at her age. Well, they should love things around their age. I don't think they have to specifically like love them, but she loved them. She was a girly girl, and that was what she should be doing at 16. So Becky's stepmother, Anja, actually on the day of Becky's murder, left for an appointment. So Anja left for a hospital appointment that she had. Becky arrived home at 8:30 a.m. in the morning. Then the stepbrother Nathan rings the landline, and at 3 minutes past 11 a.m. Becky texts her boyfriend, which was the last time she was heard from by text or by anyone verbally other than a murderer, sadly. So Angie got back from hospital and noticed Becky isn't home, and this is when it turned out she went missing. But she assumed at first she's with a friend. Nathan claimed he hadn't seen Becky that day, but she had been in the house and heard the door, and he heard the door slamming, which I guess was his little story to tell to try and place him out of being anything to do with this, or even knowing if she just went out or something. Now, while everyone else started worrying, Angie seen Nathan and Shona acting normal, just like it was an everyday, normal day for him. So she assumed at this point as well, Angie, that she will see Becca later in the day. Unfortunately, she never got to, of course, as we know. So sickeningly and disturbingly, Nathan and Shona was acting so normal that they ordered a takeaway that night. They was playing a game of Monopoly. And the next day, after Becky had gone missing, there was heard laughing at a song, Do you wanna hide a body, which is from the song Do You Wanna Build a Snowman. And Becky was missing all this in this time, obviously, because it was the day after. But there was laughing at Do You Wanna Hide a Body song. It must have been a parody, whatever you call it, that they spinned off from Do You Wanna Build a Snowman. So yeah, as I said, the night before Becky was murdered, she stayed up playing games and watching films with her friend, texted her boyfriend, she loved him. And then while she was missing, Becky's friends and her boyfriend kept texting her while she was missing. Then by 4 p.m. the next day, after Becky was missing, Becky's dad called the police, realising his daughter should be home if nothing was wrong. Heartbreakingly, there was something wrong. His father said his daughter had gone missing, and the dispatcher asked all the normal questions, routinely as you do if someone reports someone missing. So in case of a missing person. The police actually took it quite serious from the beginning. They came out to the family home. The police actually searched Becky's bedroom. They immediately realised her laptop, tablet and phone was missing, but money and clothes was still there, which she would have needed if she run away. She would have took money and clothes more than a laptop and tablet and phone. They then spoke to Nathan, as he was the last person to see Becca. But he basically just told the police that he never saw or heard where Becky went, so he couldn't give any details or comments on to help with any leads, any potential leads. So the 22nd of February, police actually made their first big media appeal. An online campaign gets made also to help find 16-year-old Becca. Police search from door to door, making inquiries, and father goes on television to make an emotional appeal, but it was leading to nothing at this point. And then the police decided they should start and focus their attention more to Nathan, which rightly so. The police actually noticed Nathan and Shona was not acting concerned or anything like that. And even if you don't get on with respect with your stepsister, you'd still be concerned if they was missing, especially so young. You'd still want to know where they were. You'd still want to know if they were safe. You still want to know if they're okay. You know, all them things. So it doesn't add up that he was feeling and looking with no emotion at all, and even his girlfriend, because if your even if you don't know someone that well as well. So same goes for Shona. You're with a stepbrother who should be concerned, should make you concerned, even for him, if you weren't for anyone else. But you would, if you was a normal, decent human being, you'd be worried about Becky at this point, wouldn't you? But not Nathan, not Shona, quite obviously. Even if it were for, just upset for the people that were upset around you, but nothing that would remotely say that they felt an ounce of concern or worry or anything that they should have been feeling and holding in. So it was then noted as also Nathan and Shona were trying their best not to engage with the search of the missing child, Becky Watts, even though it weren't just a stranger to him, it was actually Nathan's family member. Even if it wasn't by blood, it was his step sister, and he knew how much his mum loved and cared about her like her own. So when they finally actually questioned Shona, she claimed Nathan was actually very upset. When they finally spoke to Nathan, he looked the complete opposite to upset, of course, as they had been doing, unbothered, not caring. So yeah, it was the very complete opposite looking of upset, no concern, no nothing, not even a minor concern from him. But Nathan did actually manage to tell the investigators that he didn't like Becky. She was disrespectful and a selfish human being. So the police was most suspicious of Nathan and Shona now at this point, because and he also said that she was unclean, like she weren't tidy and messing things up, and disrespectful to his mum and stuff, as well as properties, and keeping everything a mess and just being disrespectful, according to him. But there was more concern at this point, the police, so because it isn't a normal thing to say, is it? If someone's missing, especially a child, and especially a family member. So it's not just a person, it's a child, it's your family member. Also, it ticks all the boxes that you wouldn't be saying when they're missing. It's very disrespectful, very disrespectful, very rude person, selfish human being. You don't refer to someone that went missing, even if you didn't have the closest relationship with him, like that. More suspicious of them at this point, the police, rightly so. Police tried to visit Nathan and Shona's home 2 times, but they couldn't get access because of both of them was out at the time. But they do gain access the next day, and Nathan looked really pale when they gained access at this time. He had dark circles under his eyes. He was when he said hello to him, they could see he had dark circles. Apparently the home was very cluttered, but there was also a mess of cat feces around. So I guess they don't look after the cats, like they can't look after anybody or even care about anybody, because they're selfish, despicable human beings. So Shona was actually upstairs when they visited, and she never talked to officers at this point. But 4 days after this visit, the police actually arrest Shona and Nathan on suspicion of Becky's kidnapping at this point. So the police then took everything out of the home carefully to be placed in a car to be examined by forensics. While they was at home, they actually found a lot of things, such as receipts, a saw, gloves. They also found a 7-minute video called "Virgin Teen Gets Raped" on a laptop they found. So they then decided to take Shona back for an interview. Shona in the interview was very calm. She was laughing. She was quick at making up a story that wasn't real, obviously. And she was just, joking with the officers in this interview, which is not how you'd act if you was a concerning public officer for someone that you should care about if you're a human being. But then on 2nd of March, both was actually rearrested again on Becky's murder because at this point, unfortunately, blood of Becky's was actually found with Nathan's fingerprints on a door. Then devastatingly, Becky was found. She was definitely keep bearing in mind trigger warning, because this is where you hear a couple of things of the very heartbreaking and gruesome death at how she was. So Becky was actually severed in a suitcase in a neighbour's shed. Then investigators found Becky's body, but it was cut up into pieces in a suitcase and plastic bags. They assaulted, murdered, and then threw away Becky like trash, a 16-year-old little girl. I don't know about you, but murdering is sickening enough, but when someone cuts someone's body up, it's not, it doesn't even come into a normal human being's head that that's possible. And then you see a case and then you'll forget about it, because most people don't even go as far as that. And I'm not saying they're any better, because they shouldn't be murdering or abusing anyone. But I mean, then you won't, it's not like the most common thing just to cut bodies up after. Obviously it does happen, but you don't eat it regular, you know what I mean? So you don't see it for a while, and then you look at a case and you see it, and then it gets thinking what the actual fuck would do something like that. Well, evil, disgusting, monstrous, evil, awful people. There's not even any words that would be fitting for people like that, at least from my perspective. I can't. They literally threw 16-year-old Becky Watts away like trash after they assaulted her and cut her up and murdered her. Nathan and Shauna was now charged. Shauna continues to deny any involvement. Clearly, lack of empathy. Well, we know they had anyway, but she's clearly got no bit of remorse at all. According to Shauna, she was actually having a cigarette outside in the garden, so didn't see or hear anything while she was away for a few minutes. She was away for a few minutes in the garden smoking, so she didn't hear or see anything happening to Becky. So Becky was managed to be assaulted, cut up, abused, tortured, and she didn't hear or see anything. So according to Shauna, then Nathan managed to take Becky upstairs, violently assaulted her, murdered her by cutting her up. By the way, while she was having a cigarette in the garden and didn't even hear anything. I hear bullshit. Shauna also claimed Nathan never said or did anything concerning towards Becky. The investigators said due to a condition Nathan had, he wouldn't be able to physically carry Becky's body himself to expose her. So, see what that said there. Nathan was actually interviewed during Nathan's interview, should I say. He written a statement with his lawyer. His story was that it did kill Becky, but it was an accident. Apparently, he just wanted to scare Becky to make her more respectful and cleaner with throwing her clothes about and things. That's just normal behaviour for a 16-year-old, by the way. So he put a mask on, put tape over Becky's mouth, and threw her into a suitcase and left her body in a car. That was basically his little story of events. Now, I don't know about you, but that's disturbing, abuse, and disgusting enough, even if you had just done that. So it doesn't make you sound like a good person. So I don't know why you made that particular story up. I don't know why I bothered making any up, because it's quite clear evidence point to you and your little girlfriend right now. But the fact that it was an accident, why would you need to do all that? So he's basically trying to say after he did that and brought in his suitcase, when he found her, found her eventually, that she stopped breathing basically in the suitcase, I think he was going for. But that's definitely not what happened, as we all know. They'd also actually stabbed Becky 15 times. 15 times. If it was an accident, why would you need to stab her as well? That's another thing. It should have accidentally died from you putting in a suitcase, stop breathing. Why did you need to stab her? Also. So Becky actually put up a massive fight. She ended up with bruises all over her body. She was just in, like, I don't know if I had to see my child like that. I think I would literally pass out and die right there from seeing my child like that. So Becky's father, Darren, went to see her at the morgue. He said it would have been easier to take us all, and Becky's stepmother said it's worse than any horror movie. 22nd of June, Shona was charged with murder. Shona got sentenced to 17 years for manslaughter. Nathan was sentenced to 33 years for murder. In the months before Becky, just to add, was murdered, both Nathan and Shona was looking up porn a lot and watching a lot of it. So I don't know if that was the motive, that they were both just paedophiles, and that was the motive. Well, we know he definitely was, and I'm assuming she was from this. I'm getting... Now, to finish it off, because it feels unhuman to not tell you what kind of person Becky was and what she liked and stuff. There wasn't much information to go on with, but I try my best to find something at least. So first of all, Becky was absolutely gorgeous girl on the outside, and inside she was. But on the outside, she was even just blessed to be beautiful. On the outside, she was an absolutely gorgeous young girl, and I can imagine her being gorgeous all the way up until forever more. I can imagine she wouldn't have lost them beautiful looks even further on down the line. She was naturally so beautiful, and like I said, she was just a beautiful on inside. She was, although she was shy, she was very sweet, kind and caring person. She had that just nature about her, that sweet nature. Becky actually loved fashion, which a lot of girls her age do, and she was really, really into it there. And on a good day, she was very determined young girl to do what she wanted to do, that she loved, and to be as happy and love life as much as she could. And she absolutely adored father and stepmother and other people in her life, like of friends and boyfriend that she'd recently got, of course, as well. She also loved going to the cinema to watch films, of course, and most of all, that shown that you could see that she was very sweet and natured and loving, natured and caring inside, was that she absolutely loved animals. She really loved animals, and like I said, that definitely shows a sweet nature about her, because animals are just like young children. They deserve the most respect, love, attention, care, protection, everything that they deserve. It's Becky's, basically Becky's best friend actually said after Becky had told her about to be murderer, had told Becky he'd kill her. A murderer told her I would kill her later on. And I don't know, I put that one with that because that's ruined the bit of speaking about. But yeah, she was just a beautiful, gorgeous girl on the inside and out. And like I said, she loved and adored animals, fashion, and going to the cinema, and just being a young girl with a friend, hanging with her friends, a best friend, boyfriend that she'd got, and absolutely adored her parents, her father and stepmother. Tell me your thoughts below. Do you think it was out of jealousy why they did this to Becca, her stepbrother and his girlfriend, or do you think they are both paedophiles, or do you think it's a mixture of things? Like, what do you think the motive was? Because obviously Becky, it isn't just because Becky was human, or because that he thought she was disrespectful, because no normal person goes to that, even if you've got mental illness, even if you're a bad person. like not best person, well, do you know what I mean? But it's absolutely heartbreaking, this one, and I'm glad you all could stick it out with me. If you did, thank you so much for watching, and please remember Becky at all times. Thank you. Stay blessed, guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.